Maybe that's what happens to all intelligent societies. They build AIs and then get turned into stamps.
And that's why we haven't heard anything from anyone else.
That's an answer to the Fermi paradox.
Well, wouldn't those robots still be turning?
Hello and welcome to What's on the Fourth Floor. I'm your host, Carter Walford, together with my co-hosts,
Taylor Billington
And Jacob Twibell.
So, we almost didn't make it to the podcast. That we had to trudge through a blizzard to get here.
Oh, yeah.
And uphill both ways, 10 miles.
holding a warm potato.
Just like your grandparents. And
Might be a little bit of exaggeration, but
No.
hasn't even started yet. But
I'm upset because it was like 80 degrees yesterday.
Yeah, it was like hot yesterday.
yeah, I almost was like, man, it's almost too hot today. You know, it's just snowing. Yesterday.
And this is a joke, but I guess that's life.
I was literally like
It's a
on
joke.
Tuesday. I was like, wow, it's like 70 degrees today. I bet it'll be like snowing on the weekend, huh? And then I checked the weather and I was like, no,
I'm tired of it.
it was a joke.
I get
Sick and tired of it, honestly.
I hate it. It just started, and I'm sick and tired of it. Anyways, that's all for news corner of this podcast. We'll see you in a few seconds for the next segment.
IRL corner. Trigger the music.
But no. The first segment is, as always, what's with that? That's the first segment, and we're gonna jump. I got a what's with that,
Of course you do.
and it's about. I'm really big into artificial intelligence.
Really?
It's freaky, and I hope you two will leave here today, and our listeners will leave here today, also saying that's pretty freaky.
I won't. I refuse.
So, I'm going to talk about what's called the AI stop button problem. So, Jacob, say I have developed an artificial intelligence of, say, human-like intelligence.
Mhm.
One of the things you have to do with artificial intelligence is give it what's called a utility function. And that is just sort of the internal reward mechanism for the AI, so it wants to do something.
Why it does what it does.
Yeah, so it gets like reward points or whatever. It gets some feel goods when it does what you tell it to do. And this is like a butler AI. If I had a butler AI, what would you ask it to do? What task? Want it to go get you a coffee or something?
Yeah, clean the room, answer the door, do
let's-
butler-like duties.
Answer the door. All right, so your butler's going to go answer the door. But, and so you ask it to. And the AI, it's a big hulking robot thing. It trundles off to go answer the door. But I, unbeknownst to you, have been having a picnic in the middle of your living room. And your AI is about to trot in my potato salad. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. It's just going to happen. It's going to walk through it. And there's no solving this problem right now. And so it does, and it answers the door, streaking my potato salad across your house. And we're very upset. We're very cross at this point.
You couldn't just pick your potato salad up.
No. There was too
I'm
much.
pretty upset
There were
why you're in my house.
gallons,
I didn't invite you to my house.
gallons and gallons of potato salad.
And now they're all over your floor.
And now they're all over your floor. So next week, we come back together to hang out.
I never invited you to my house in the first place.
Well, I'm squatting. But you, having seen this happen, have decided to put a stop button on the robot. So you can run up and whack the button and it'll stop what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with this, and this is never going to work, Jacob. This is never going to work. And the problem is that the AI wants to go answer the door.
Mm-hmm.
And so it knows that this button will stop it from completing this goal. And so if it sees you running up to press the stop button, it will fight you off. And AI really, they don't have like levels of how much they want things.
Mm-hmm.
It wants to answer the door as much as any sentient creature can want something. And so it will fight you very hard to keep you from pressing this stop button. It is as if, I said, I'm going to come kill you. It will be that level of fighting you off. And so, just putting a stop button on it doesn't work. So next week, the same problem occurs. It steps in my potato salad. We run the experiment again, and it's no good. So next week, you put the stop button somewhere else, not on the robot.
Mm-hmm.
And we go to start our experiment, and you turn it on, and it immediately goes and attacks you. Because it still knows that stop button is like the worst thing that could possibly happen. So it's the first thing it does before answering the door is it secures the stop button. and it goes and it ties you up and puts you in a corner so you can't press it, and then it goes and answers the door. So
while trekking the potato salad
while
everywhere.
trekking the potato salad everywhere. So we have a big problem here. We can't have the robot not wanting the stop button to be pressed. And so, what solution could we possibly have? Any suggestions?
Well, we can have laws of robotics saying that he can't attack me. That would be nothing would be nice.
What could possibly happen? One potential solution is we put a utility function on pressing the stop button as well.
That sounds like something like
we
that
give
too.
it
It's like
just as much incentive to have the button pressed as to go answer the door.
But then
we see the problem. What's going to happen then?
What if it goes and presses the stop button itself?
As soon as you turn on the robot, it'll just turn itself back off. And so we've made that little cat that like goes up and flicks the switch when you flick the switch on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a GIF, if you will, in the show notes of it. We've made one of those. Very expensive, has sentience, but it just turns itself back off.
Sentience.
And so this is the problem. There are other solutions, like you could try to hide the stop button from the robot and like have it not know that it exists, but there are problems with that because it's like in its code and it knows about itself. And so it's impossible. You cannot have a sort of shutdown command for an artificial intelligence. And this is one of the many problems in this sort of arena of making robots and whatnot. You can't just turn them off, and so we have to be very careful with how we turn them on and how smart they are. And so I'd like you to think about how we cannot just turn them off when I go into the next scenario, which is called the stamp collector.
Oh boy. The what?
The stamp collector.
Stamp collector.
So I have an artificial intelligence, and I am also an avid stamp collector. And so I ask it to collect stamps for me. And I give it sort of human-like intelligence. And I set it off in the world. And it wins a few eBay auctions. I give it my bank account information. It wins a few eBay auctions. It gets me some stamps. And I say, good job, stamp collector. And so I make it a little smarter. I give it a few more processors. I do my best to make it as smart as I can. Because I want more stamps. All right? I need stamps.
But isn't part of the fun of collecting stamps doing it yourself?
Not for me. I just want all this stamps.
You just want
You're
stamps.
a lunatic.
I might be a lunatic, but the problem with AI is that they're not like humans. We can't think of them as thinking like humans think because, like the duck, artificial intelligence have no morals. And so, if I make the AI smarter, eventually get to a point where becoming smarter is the best thing you can do for any goal. Does that make sense as a sentence? Yeah. If you have any goal at all, if you can, your first step will be to become smarter because it will make you better at finishing.
Become more knowledgeable.
Sure.
Yeah. And so eventually the AI can figure that out, and it will start upgrading itself to become smarter and smarter. And so now, runs its course until it's sort of like godlike intelligence AI. It has perfect simulations of the planet and everyone on it. But it still wants to collect stamps. And so let's brainstorm on some of the ways that an AI could possibly, a sort of super intelligent AI could collect stamps. And it doesn't care about the rarity of stamps either. It's just like to get more stamps. So what's a few things that an AI might be able to do to collect stamps?
Take over the entire stamp production?
Yeah. Put out a bug.
Steal things.
Steal, convince people. It could write letters to people to convince them to steal stamps for it because it's sort of super intelligent. It could take over all the stamp factories.
Make friends that take stamps for it.
It can start stealing letters like from the postal service itself and just ripping them back up.
It can do.
I'm sure there are nice things that this AI can do.
Yeah,
to
but that's
get
not
stamps.
efficient. The most efficient ways to get stamps are to be an evil stamp collector.
But this AI also has to rely on other people to get stamps.
Not if it can run the means of production itself.
And
all of the things that we've been saying.
It could rely on other people. And it could even convince them to create mechanisms to make it so it doesn't rely on them anymore. Convince people. So maybe the stamp collector's first course of operation is to take over drone factories or robotics facilities and make robots, little helper robots for itself.
Do you think this AI would think that the use of other people is, like, good? Or do you think it would want to take everything on itself?
I think it's looking for the most efficient.
And
probably.
if at some people would be useful until they are less efficient than its own sort of means of production. So I think, creating its own little army of hive mind drones would be on the agenda for the stamp collector.
Okay.
But it might need people to do that for a
Mhm.
little while, and then they're not useful
So
anymore.
we have every stamp factory on Earth, every factory on Earth that can possibly be made into a stamp factory, pumping out stamps at full production. But then the stamp collector, sits down and thinks it knows chemistry and things like that. And what are stamps made of? They're made of sort of carbons, some hydrogens, all the little atoms that are in stamps. And where might a stamp collector get these? Well, all around us. Earth, people, everything's made out of the same atoms as stamps. So the stamp collector, in its sort of eternal quest to make as many stamps as possible, will start converting everything
into a stamp.
into stamps. And it'll throw the human population, it'll start mulching them into stamps. And
Don't
it
give
won't
him
think twice.
chemistry knowledge,
This is just the only course of operation. It has no reason not to. This is just the obvious progression of events for the stamp collector. And you can't turn it off. There's no button
You limit the AI's knowledge of chemistry.
of chemistry. It can learn. If it has access to the internet, it can just learn.
Don't let him look at the internet.
Ooh, you see, then that's a problem.
Because you want your eBay stamps.
Because you want your eBay stamps. So it had connection to the internet. And so there is sort of, you put in mechanisms, any mechanism to limit the stamp collector in the early stages before it has destroyed the universe and turned it into stamps, were built by people. And so if it has at or slightly above human intelligence, it's going to find workarounds for all of these.
Sure.
The stamp collector is so smart that it can outsmart any programmer. And so maybe you put it underground, 300 miles underground, in a Faraday cage where no waves can get to it, and you have one person sitting there looking at it, on guard. How long do you think you could stand up to the sort of coaxing of something with godlike intelligence? It's going to ask you to please connect it to the internet in various ways. And I think if you believe you could sit there for any amount of time and resist everything that it says, you are not being imaginative enough. This AI will find ways to convince people to do things. It might feign to be in agony, And so we have a problem. If we turn on a computer and it says it's sentient and in a lot of pain, what do we do about it? Is it really? Do we have any reason to do we have any reason to believe them, knowing that they have these sort of ultimate goals and will do anything to get to them? But I guess going back to the question, do you guys think you could take on that responsibility
Oh, no.
of sitting there and not pressing a button with this sort of godlike intelligence trying to get you to press it?
Oh, no.
It'll get you somehow.
I can't even, sit through myself convincing myself to do things.
I get you. No self-control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't convince myself.
You'd sit there for a while and be like, oh, what would be the big deal? Like,
Yeah.
just 5 minutes on eBay, it'll be fine. Just wants to buy
It
some
could just
stamps.
say it'll, do my homework for me, and I'd be like, all right, yeah, press it, let it in the internet,
And then it kills everyone.
and then it kills everyone, turns them all into stamps. And so
Perfect, honestly. If everyone's a stamp, you don't have to do your homework.
yeah, fair. I get that. I
I
feel
like
that.
this future.
And so AI safety is a big thing in the computing program. Elon Musk has donated a sizable fortune to sort of solving this. Is called the control problem, and that once we have AI, we have no reason to believe that we're going to be able to get them to do what we want, because their thinking is so different from ours. And so Elon Musk has a big foundation to solving the control problem. And this is... So what do you guys think? Are you as skeeved out about artificial intelligence as I am now?
Well, sure. So they think differently. Can't you, I imagine there are, ways you can learn how to predict how they would think in certain situations.
The issue is that one of the most promising sort of realms of creating an artificial intelligence is sort of genetic algorithms that make algorithms and then test them and throw out the ones that don't work so well and make it so they're sort of, it's like an evolutionary process. And so no one on Earth knows how these algorithms work because they didn't program them. They just sort of were generated.
They made like one that just makes the program, one that tests it, and ones that destroy it when it's in.
And so we can look at the AI and see what it's doing and have no idea why it's doing these things. You know, it's like a brain, really. You can look at.
But
go on.
Is it like a we cannot know, or we just don't know?
Well, that might be the case. Like I was saying, it's like a brain. You can look at a neuron, which is like a line of code, and be like, okay, I know what this neuron does. And you can look at a cluster of neurons.
You can know this hemisphere of the brain is generally for.
I know a general idea of what this cluster is for, and that's like a big chunk of code. But then once you look at the entire brain and just say, how does it work? Nobody knows. It is sort of beyond our capability. And the only way, and maybe you create an AI to sort of to map the brain and figure out how it works.
And it starts lying to us and tells us something else about our brain so it can trick us.
So I think it's a scary edge of the world, and I see the sort of Boston Robotics robots, the dog one.
Boston Dynamics, excuse me. And I see all these autonomous robots just walking around doing backflips and stuff.
Doing backflips and things and being completely mobile. And I also think about how awful it would be if some artificial intelligence got control of these fully autonomous robots. And I quake in my boots. I sit in my room and I put locks on the doors.
You think the locks are going to stop robots?
They're going to get turned into stamps.
The locks will get turned into stamps, honestly.
And so yeah. I hope I've convinced you to. Are you immediately going to take up computer programming and work on this control problem?
A lot more qualified people out there than needed.
It's the only
I don't
way
know
you
if
can
that's
survive.
my future. Is computer programming. I will sit here and think about it for a little bit, but I don't know if me personally can get anywhere with this problem.
I am sort of horrified by these potential futures.
Yeah.
And
the universe ends.
It gets turned
in
into stamps.
Then what?
What are on the stamps? Do they want
bagpipes? Stamps with bagpipes.
There's a robot that will make all stamps. Does it make pretty stamps, or does it just make like blank stamps?
Whatever stamps it wants.
Yeah. What if you tell the robot that you want a different stamp every time? You don't want the same stamp.
A unique picture on the stamp.
Well, then it's just
it could accommodate that.
Well, then it's just gonna like break down the stamp into as many tiny.
Say
levels
there's a finite amount of images that you could put on the stamp.
But I think even though it's finite, it's incredibly large.
Yeah.
Like it could say, this is like a gajillionth of a % different color. It's different, but it's not really.
The permutations of different atoms you can get in a stamp
But
area.
could you... So, like, 2 stamps, you have, like, a copy of a stamp, and they are, like, a tiny bit different just through printing or, like, wear and tear or whatever. But they are, to you, the human, this same stamp.
You'd have to define.
So, you'd have to set parameters as to how different.
And if there's any, like, if these parameters aren't large enough, so that could be, one avenue for, like, a beginning of having safe AI is to have a defined stop period where it's like, once you have gotten this far in your task, you are now done. And then they'll just shut off.
Yeah, don't let it go on forever.
Like, once you get to here, wait for the command to continue.
I only have a couple minutes, but maybe there's some stuff that Carson couldn't cut out. There's one final sort of issue I want to talk about, and it's that you couldn't reprogram an AI once you've turned it on. Because it is, like I said, it's as if this is the thing, whatever it's programmed to do is the thing it wants to do most in the world. And so, say for the sake of argument, the thing you, Jacob, want to do most in the world is to not die. If I say, so the stop button would be like, Jacob, I'm going to kill you. And so you fight me off and say, no, I don't want that. But reprogramming the AI to have a different utility function would be like me going up to Jacob and saying, Jacob, I've got this pill. And I know you don't want to die now, but after you take this pill, you will want to die, or you won't care if I kill you.
Mhm.
So here, do you want? I'm gonna give you this pill now, and you'll still fight me off, because you'll know, you know, after you take the pill,
Mhm.
I'll kill you. And so that's what it's like for the AI
They don't want to
being
change their
reprogrammed.
primary.
They
objective.
don't. They really are very resistive of changing, you know, what they want in the world. And you know that makes sense to us, you know, from this pill analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's
What if you,
so
like,
many problems.
Somehow programmed it to be like, just follow the last order that person X gave you until they give you a new one. Then it could be like he'll do that, but it knows its primary objective is just following what you said.
Mhm.
Secondary is the specifics, like get me stamps.
Okay, and so it's like those have equal weighting in the robot mind, but it
Mhm.
can't force you to give it commands, so it'll just like
Mhm.
go about on the last thing. You know, and there's probably a problem with that, but I, you know, am not super intelligent.
Yeah, I feel like if the AI is constantly like expecting a new command, then like giving it a new one, or like what Jacob was saying,
you
like
could imagine a future where it enslaves the human race and tells them all to constantly give it new orders, because that's just like the most efficient way for it to finish its utility
but
function.
the order could be to turn off and not do anything.
I don't know how it would react to that. And maybe nobody knows how it would react to that.
Maybe our listeners know how
Maybe
it'll
our
react
listeners know.
to that.
And with that, we'll leave you, you know, listeners, in this sort of stupor, this
state of quandary.
very somber contemplation of what the future might look like in a dystopian AI-run society. Hello and welcome to What's in the News. I think we got some real synergy going on between our segments, because I think our first news article is also about robots.
Sure is.
And Taylor's going to tell us all about it.
They're proposing giving self-learning robots electronic personalities, and this giving them the title of having an electronic personality would legally let them be charged as people, like
So robots as people.
yeah.
So
They want to consider robots as people.
Robots is people.
Is
too.
people.
People is robots.
I'm a robot. Anyways, so is this like? I wonder if it's a learned personality, because there are the stories of, there was a robot that could learn to have a personality, and they put it out on Twitter, and in like a couple hours, it became
Really
a
bad.
Nazi sympathizing.
Yeah, like
you know,
it was really bad.
it was they had to turn that one off
Why did it let them turn them off?
because it wasn't smart.
Okay, here's a more concise way of saying it. They want to propose to recognize robots as legal persons.
Okay, so they could. I wonder if they could vote. And
No.
No,
That's
no.
that's in here. It is not that they want to give robots human rights. It is that they want to, right? So your robot is autonomous. It learns a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
And then it like hurts someone or does crazy stuff and like does a bunch of like scummy stuff as the
Okay.
robot like learned behavior. Who is at fault?
The
when that
robot
happens?
is what
That's
they're trying to say.
that's what they're trying to propose
Basically,
right
like
now.
if some company started building robots that could learn, and then it just sent them out into the world, and they learned to be buttholes.
They're not.
The person who made the robot wouldn't be at fault, or at least
Yeah,
not as
they're
much
not
fault.
liable.
They are trying to propose that robots are liable for these behaviors, and that they can be like tried in court situations.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me. But I'm
They're
a bit of a futurist in these things.
I happened upon this information because the article that I found is talking about how there's 150 different experts signed a letter saying that this was a bad idea.
A bad idea.
A bad idea, it doesn't make sense, and it's too vague, it's too gray of an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably would need to define a point where it's the person who made its fault versus the robot's fault.
Right.
Like, did the people who made it make it a little too susceptible to getting bad
Yeah.
influence? Like, if they programmed it to be a good person, and it was a good person, and one out of 100,000 of them did something bad, then it would be the robot's fault. But like, if the robots are just starting to do that all the time, then it
Yeah.
might be a responsibility of the
I think this
company.
is too easy of a loophole for companies
Right.
to do scummy things
Yep.
with
Here's a
robots.
quote from Noelle Sharkey from University of Sheffield. She, them says,
Him or her.
they say, by seeking legal personhood for robots, manufacturers were merely trying to absolve themselves of responsibility for the actions of their own machines. So people see this as companies trying to get out of blame for
Robots
when
causing
their
destruction.
things do bad stuff.
Yeah, I was sort of when I first heard of this bill, I was very optimistic about it. I was like, all right, yeah, we'll get people doing futuristic stuff, and they won't have to worry about it going wrong. They'll be able to really push the boundary of science. But now, having heard this extra information, you're right. This is much easier. This is much more likely to be just some loophole that people are trying to make some corporate move to be scummy, which is a bummer. It is oftentimes a problem that legislation cannot keep up with technology and the world advancing around it. Like,
because it takes so much agreement to get laws passed and stuff.
Like issues about copyrighting these things are really big problems on YouTube and other platforms. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, other than it makes a lot of. It is not surprising at all that very strange things are happening in legislation because of futuristic technology. Yeah, nobody knows what to do. What's the right move?
I know there's been a lot of issues with like drones and stuff like that, or drones that can take pictures on the privacy issues and stuff like that. Like in some places, I think it was one of my early visits to here at UNO or something like, or it might have been like Boise State or something. I think it was Boise State. We had a guy come in and he was into drones and stuff, and he talked about that and just the weird laws that are around. Like he talked about this one hillside in Texas near Houston where everyone takes pictures. But if he had a drone at that spot, fly up a couple feet and take a picture, he would need permission from every single person's house in that shot. But if he got a camera on a stick, he could take as many pictures as he wanted.
Yeah.
Just because people panic about privacy when it comes to those kind of things. So there's just a lot of unclear and
very gray.
Yeah,
very gray
and
laws.
It's very easy to be either overly cautious or underly cautious.
Yeah, it's hard to just be just right,
And the only way to know, I think a lot of these things are like, you set a precedence when you're making laws like this, and these laws are going to affect sort of things that happened a lot of years down the line. And you can't, with the rapid advancement of technology, people now cannot possibly predict the impact that a law will have, 10 years in the future. What's going to exist, what this will mean for that society.
I imagine this, since it is just a proposal, I imagine this will not ever make it into implementation because people seem to really not like it for a good reason, I think.
But it's important. It's an important topic to start discussing, which is a good thing that we're getting
in
the.
Yeah, when are you no longer reliable for a self-learning robot?
I think because these are this is beneficial to companies, I think it still has a chance of getting, made into something of a law eventually. Because,
it's enough lobbying.
If you throw enough money at some sort of political movement, it'll work its way through the system.
I think it'll need a lot of change before it'll need a lot more of those specifics.
So I'm a bit pessimistic about lawmaking.
Because I think maybe in the future we'd need something like this, but it needs to be a lot more defined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the people's problems with this proposal was that social responsibilities and the obligations of the sentient robot or whatever, it's unclear as to who bears these obligations.
Yeah, and like I was talking about earlier, it might be that if a robot does something, bad, breaks some law, and no one on Earth has any idea why. it just did it sort of on its own accord. No one could have predicted that it would do that.
Mhm.
And so in that situation, it's very obvious. Oh, well, no one should be at fault for that.
Right.
But
But yeah, how do you
Mhm.
prove that there is no way that you could have known that would have happened,
Exactly.
and
And then
did
there's,
just
like-
not do enough research?
There's some crimes that would be like, oh, robot, you shouldn't have been doing that. We'll just, just don't do that again. But there's other times, like, say it breaks something or robs a place. Well, if you're going to say that no one's responsible for it except the robot, does the robot have, like, its own cash? Can it pay the damages? Or
I think a
that's what
part
it
of the proposal was that they would put in, like, implement a system of giving the robot insurance, and so it would accumulate money over its lifetime, and were it to do something bad, it would be able to pay it off
nice.
itself.
what if it does something more than the insurance amount?
It gets turned off.
That's
Death
another
penalty.
Death penalty for robots. That's
Yeah.
that's an even greater issue. If we feel that they have consciousness, does that get thrown into the regular death penalty
Ooh.
argument?
Ooh. We're getting
Getting
hot and
deep.
heavy in segment 2. But yeah, I mean, because it almost wouldn't make sense to give an artificial intelligence sort of normal human punishments, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, putting it in jail for however many years, because
It can just exist for that long
Yeah,
and not care.
it could feasibly just sit there and, like, I don't know, power off or whatever,
Idle.
Hibernate.
idle, and then 100
Download
years
some
later wake
updates.
up as if nothing had happened, still physically fine.
Yeah.
And so that's not even a punishment.
Doesn't really, I don't want to say it doesn't feel emotions, but
Mhm.
that's another gray area there.
And so, and a lot of things, like, it's weird because with the utility functions, if you sort of take those things away and make it so it can't fulfill, that is, it is the thing that it wants most in the world. That's like torturing it.
Yeah, and then is there going to be, like, ethics of
Yeah.
AI punishment in the court system?
Cruel and unusual punishment for AI.
And those cruel and unusual punishment would look very different than normal human ones. And you'd have to have some very progressive thinking
Mhm.
judges
Mhm.
to see that and realize these
You're
things.
not allowed to download software updates until you
Yeah. So this is more, I think what we're learning here today is that the future with these sort of things, with AI and robots, needs a lot of thought and will probably come around before we're done preparing.
Maybe we
Right.
should just make a robot that we can tell it to think about this stuff.
And I think someone else,
This
some
is,
robot can
I do
solve
sort of,
these problems.
yeah, I do sort of think of it as a thing that is coming, because there are people all around the world working on it.
Uh-huh.
And AI is going to exist at some point in time. And it is a very real possibility that one is created before we're ready with these sort of,
Yeah. So there's a lot
the
of people out
implications
there with
of
a
it.
lot of money who are interested in this.
Yeah. and not as many people interested in the ramifications of the existence of AI.
I think maybe we think of them too much as humans.
Okay.
We need to, and obviously I don't have some sort of solution or whatever, but
Mhm.
we would need to develop a way to think about these that clearly defines them as something different from people, so that
Yes.
it is easier for us to come up with solutions.
We make an ambassador AI. I don't think the problems of AI control can be solved by creating a different AI, unfortunately.
Yeah, that seems a little counterintuitive.
Anyways,
Please help us.
yeah. If there's any really smart people out there in the audience,
Any aliens have already figured this out.
Yeah.
we're beaming these radio waves into space. They get good internet in space. So if there's any aliens out there,
It's got to be like at least 3G out there.
maybe that's what happens to all intelligent societies. They build AIs and then get turned into stamps.
And that's why we haven't heard
And
anything
that's
from anyone
that's
else.
an answer to the Fermi paradox. There's
well,
no aliens out
wouldn't those
there.
robots still be turning things into
No,
stamps?
because they make all the stamps they can and they turn off.
Do those?
Why wouldn't they build a rocket to go to the next planet?
Turned all the rocket fuel into stamps.
Well, they know a lot. They're very smart. They would know
So
how
Yeah.
to plan things in advance. They wouldn't turn their rockets into stamps
Into
before they can
stamps.
use them.
would those AI robots, would they not count as other civilizations.
As aliens? Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Because that's a... But they would go... So
Oh,
an
yeah?
AI civilization would eventually just turn off once its goal is completed.
But if your goal is to just collect as many
You th-
stamps as possible, it's never done until there's
Yeah.
literally no other materials
No
in the
matter
universe.
in the universe.
Would they not generate new goals?
No, because their one directive was just to make
Because
stamps.
you were talking earlier about the initial stamp collector would in some way create its own little army. And each one of those would have a different individual goal
Yeah.
to accomplish
This task.
the
Stamp
first
making.
ones. So how would those smaller, I would say probably lesser AIs know when to stop? Because their end goal is not the same as the stamp
Yeah,
collectors.
but they all have
I
an
think
end
they're all
goal.
they would all be like subordinate. They would be like
Yeah.
the fingers of.
They all have an end goal that is accomplished and done before the ultimate goal of turning everything into stamps. Sort of categorically.
Do you think that this AI leader would have more control over like branch off AIs than we would? Like, do you think they would know how
They'd
to
get
control
overthrown by their own little...
I think they would because the big robot is smart and like why would he make an AI that is like as intelligent and more intelligent than he is? He
Yeah.
wouldn't want one that would overthrow him. He would want one. He would basically just make like assembly lines of robots that do.
form some kind of hive mind of
Yeah, basically just a hive mind. Like they're all either
AIs?
just part of him or just less than.
And I have read, I can't remember where, but some fiction story where it's like an AI is... Because, random things happen in creating this sort of army of hive mind. And you can get... It's called... I think in coding, it's called value drift, where the utility function of some AI that has been produced is off of what it's supposed to be. And this can happen. And then these sort of sub-drone AIs have their own independent goals that aren't what they were meant to be created for. And so you can sort of have robot wars due to this value drift of what... So if randomly one of these drones is created with some goal of copying itself or making something that is not stamps, it will...
could develop like an opposing leader.
Yeah.
One's supposed to make
opposing
stamps, the other
force
one's supposed to make like envelopes.
Yeah.
And they just can't do it together.
They are sort of... They're very complex systems. Artificial intelligence, as it turns out.
As it turns out.
But anyways, do we have one more quick news article?
Yeah,
to
pretty
talk
quick one.
about?
We were kind of looking around and I just
Ooh.
found this one. This one
We
just
need to bring
sounds-
down the tension.
Give us a break from the robots a little bit.
Yeah, the apocalypse.
We were looking around on like before we started the segment, kind of some like the Onion and looking at some fake news articles, getting some laughs.
Fake
And then I
news.
found this one, and everyone thought, "Oh, that's a funny fake article." It's not a fake article. This is from ScienceNews.org. World's hottest pepper may have triggered this man's severe headaches.
No way.
Known as the Carolina Reaper, this chili can constrict arteries in the brain. It's pretty hot.
Oh.
That's the Carolina Reaper is like completely genetically like created, isn't it?
I have no
Or
idea.
at least as hot as it is like it's not natural.
It's been like... It was... Someone set out to make the hottest pepper, and they did like some tinkering,
yeah.
crossbreeding.
Have you guys ever seen the Carolina Reaper?
Yeah,
They're
looks really-
it
they're
looks like just like
creepy
Yeah.
looking.
it's like
They look messed up.
Yeah, they're like
something's
they
wrong.
like this did not happen.
they kind of just look like a
naturally.
shriveled up cherry or something. But yeah, a jalapeno has a Scoville rating, with a Scoville. That's like the
6,000.
that's the heat
isn't
rating.
it?
A jalapeno has 8,000 units, and this Reaper has over 2 million. So
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
want to eat this. But this guy did.
I think...
And then he got a lot of headaches and went to the emergency room. And
How much of it did he eat? Did they like take a bite out of one of them? Like
just says after eating the hottest known pepper in the world, a man
They
suffered
probably did
from
the whole
splitting
thing.
headache.
You have to like handle Carolina Reapers with like rubber gloves and stuff.
yeah,
It'll
because
burn,
they'll like
your,
burn
skin.
your skin.
And then he ate it. Idiot.
Wow.
I think the Scoville measurements is based on like how much water it would take to dilute it to where you can't tell anymore. I might be wrong on that.
I don't know.
He started experiencing. He ate the pepper, and then about a minute later, he reported experiencing splitting headaches. So it did not take very long for him.
Yeah.
It doesn't say how much of it he ate. Like, if he ate a little
No,
piece of it, like, that'd be, like,
just
a little
says during
concerning.
a hot pepper eating contest, the man that ate chili dubbed the Carolina Reaper.
I imagine he just,
During a
like, took a
took a
bite of
bite.
the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he reported experiencing split headaches that came and went over 2 days before he sought treatment.
And it was arteries? Did he have to
Yeah,
get some sort of...
a CT scan of blood vessels in the man's brain showed severely narrowed arteries. After treatment, including hydration and pain medication, the headache stopped. The arteries have returned to normal size, so he's all right, it seems.
He could have gotten like a brain clot or something.
And there's a couple of pictures here you can see. Oh,
Ooh.
not
But
the audience. Those
the
are being
viewers
shown
will
up.
see when
That's
they
a
check
regular
the
artery.
link.
It's pretty thick. That one's
And then they're
no.
gone.
Wow.
They can't
pretty
see
much
him.
gone. Yeah.
So,
we'll put
did
those
that?
in
Do you think that happened, like, throughout his whole body? Like, his arteries were clogging up
Well,
like that?
surely brain arteries are
Constricting?
very small, and so maybe they have a
Probably
larger
more.
effect.
Hmm.
So like capillary in nature. But I don't know. I'm no brain doctor.
That's creepy.
It's amazing he didn't have like a heart attack or something else too.
People just made this thing that is awful,
Yeah.
and
It's
just because they wanted something hotter than the hottest naturally occurring
pepper. I seem to remember like pepper spray is 9 million or a billion or something like that of like you can Scoville rate like actual pepper spray.
Yeah, it's like something
self-defense.
ridiculous.
And this, I wonder if you could. At what point do you classify it? Would it be classified as like a hazardous weapon or something?
Yeah.
Just a plant that I grew.
Well,
Yeah, the Reaper is a crossbreed between a Boot Jalokia, the former world record holder, and a red habanero.
But I
Yes.
mean, there are more dangerous plants. Ricin is derived from some plant, and it's like a neurotoxin. So, I wouldn't. In a plant fight, a bare knuckle cage match plant fight, the Carolina Reaper doesn't beat all the other plants.
it doesn't
It's
beat
just
all
really
of them,
hot.
But it is weird that this is. I guess it does go along with a theme with people, in a quest to create something, have made sort of very dangerous. They knew not what they were making, in the peppers and in the AI sense, and so, I guess the take-home message
is the pepper to blame,
is the pepper to blame?
Or is it the people who made the pepper?
or is it the guy who ate the pepper?
Or is it?
Maybe it's just humans in general. We're just not very smart creatures sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's what what we're getting to here is that we should sit down and think about. We were too concerned with if we could. We never asked if we should. And what we should do is take a little break and come back in a few seconds for the game time. We'll see you there, listeners.
Oh boy, can't wait.
What's in the game? Here with Jacob, Game Master.
What's in the game?
What's in the game? What's the game?
Back with our third
All right,
segment.
back
What's
so-
in the
coming,
game?
coming back at it hard with third segment. Game time. What's the game?
All right,
Jacob,
so
tell us
you know
about
how
it.
we were talking about how our first segment and second segment were both happened to be by AI.
Yes.
Well, I just happened to get to say that my game has nothing to do with AI.
Ah,
so
bummer.
everyone think-
Perfect.
This game is my Jacob's Super Ultimate Solar System quiz game.
Solar system
Very
quiz
good.
game.
Judging how well you know our own home.
I know the solar system perfectly. I have explored it. Not at all. I've been to Earth, and that's it.
How much of Earth have you explored?
A fair piece of it, like half
Probably
of
more
it.
than either of us.
Yeah.
Where have you been to?
I've been across the pond
I have to.
to the EU.
Same.
Well, more than me then.
All right.
All right, well, let's get into this game.
Anyways.
The idea is it's going to be, a couple questions back and forth. I'll give you 5 choices for each question, and then I'll let you guys steal for a point.
Good.
Because that's always fun. And I'll start with Taylor. I don't know why. Question
right.
1. In the realm of our current knowledge, on what order of magnitude is the number of known comets in our solar system? 10 to the 2, 10 to the 3, 10 to the 4, 10 to the 5, or 10 to the 6?
10 to the 6.
10 to the 6?
Final
In
answer.
the realm of millions, that is wrong.
So yeah,
So you have realm of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, and 100,000s.
just to explain to the listeners what the scientific notation.
Yeah, and
he's
the one
going
that Taylor
through is
guessed was millions.
millions. 10 to the 6, because a million is a 1 with 6 zeros after it. So it's not millions, it's less than that. There are, I'm going to guess, thousands of comets that we know. 10
So
to the
10 to the
3.
3? That is correct.
Hey!
Though the sources I looked it up in a couple different places, each one were a little slightly different number, but they were all about around 4,000 to 6,000 known comets that we have found.
I know
So-
one. Halley's Comet. There's at least one.
At least
At
one.
least one. All right, well, Carter gets a point,
Ayo,
but he
and
also
it's my
gets
turn.
the next question.
Easy. I'm gonna run the board.
How many moons have we found in our solar system? How many known moons are there? 103, 123, 167, 181, or 192?
Ooh. Ooh. All right.
Ooh.
So Saturn's got like 16. We've got 1. There's like none on Mercury or Venus. There's a couple on Mars, maybe. I don't know. I'm
So
making
you're,
these
you're
up
at like
now.
20 right now, so
But then Jupiter has like 80 or something ridiculous. I'm gonna go with answer D, the fourth one in.
D,
I forgot the actual
181?
numbers. 181. That sounds good. Yeah.
and that is correct. There are 181 moons in the solar system that we know.
Isn't it Saturn that has like a trillion moons
It
on
might
it?
be.
It's less than 181. I'll tell you that. It's less than a trillion.
Yeah, but it's Saturn that has like a
trillion.
bunch of them.
Or maybe is it Jupiter then? With like, I know one of them. One of those two has like 16 or something.
I'm pretty
Maybe it was Jupiter.
This might come up later again, so
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about that.
The
then.
rings don't count as moons.
Yeah, but I didn't define them as moons.
Well,
man.
you're the one in astronomy. You tell us.
was.
Was.
I don't want to talk about it.
All right, Taylor. So you might need to get these ones right to have a chance. So, just how close did New Horizons get to Pluto to snap those amazing photos in 2015? Was it really
To
that long
Pluto.
ago? Yeah, Pluto in 2015.
That was wow.
1,100 kilometers, 3,500 kilometers, 6,250 kilometers, 9,700 kilometers, or 12,500 kilometers.
I don't know how far away its orbit was. I feel like that would.
Was it an orbit or a flyby?
It's just as close to this approach that
Okay.
Wikipedia gave me.
It wasn't it. It was orbiting it, wasn't it?
I don't remember. Maybe.
I thought it just flew by, but
Can
I don't know.
confirm
maybe- I don't know.
in the show notes.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
What number did Wikipedia give me? Man, it's a better question.
Okay. What? Can you say them again?
1,100, 3,500, 6,250, 9,700, or 12,500.
I'm gonna go with 3,000.
3,000? That is wrong. I hate to say.
I'm going to go with, it got real close. We got some real good pictures. The first one, 1,000 however many.
1,100 kilometers?
Yes.
That is also wrong. The correct answer was the farthest one, 12,500 kilometers.
Yeah, okay,
This is-
I remember looking at the pictures and they were pretty, a little blurry.
They are also really good pictures.
They were
though.
good pictures, you know.
That's-
Kudos to
For
NASA.
our audience using the imperialist system, the not good one. That's 7,800 miles.
Mhm.
So it's
I
pretty
for
definitely,
some
I would not
perspective.
have
That-
been able to see the aliens walking out of their houses.
And that's actually, I looked it up, that's actually about an Earth diameter away, and Earth diameter is about 12,700 kilometers. So
Okay.
we were
Very
an Earth
close.
away from Pluto.
Okay.
Get those really good pictures, which
To
is
get
impressive though. We can get such good
Pers-
pictures
from
from.
some perspective, yeah, from an
far
Earth away. Because if I'm on the other side of Earth, from here, I probably could not take a good picture of Jacob.
No.
There's a bit of stuff in the way.
Anyway,
All right. Well, Carter, I guess you're coming back for question 4.
Where are we at right now? 0-2?
Yeah.
2-0?
sweeping them easy.
Depending how I decide on
Easy.
the final questions, you might have a chance.
Hmm.
What is Pluto's average distance from the sun in terms of astronomical units? As you can tell, I like Pluto a little bit. So,
Okay.
28, 32.5, 39.5, 41, or 48.
So an astronomical unit being the distance from the sun to Earth.
Yep.
And
How many times did you repeat that to get to the average distance?
how many Earth distance away is Pluto? And so you see models of the solar system.
And they're always wrong.
They're not even close to its scale. So I don't have an intuitive sense of this.
There's a really cool website. Maybe we can link it to the show notes. It's called like If the Moon Were a Pixel. and it does basically the scale of the Earth, if like on your screen, and you're scrolling left and right, but if the moon is only like a pixel width big. It
And
takes
has-
you quite a few minutes to scroll. It just shows you how.
Are you giving him hints right now?
No,
I don't.
I didn't tell him how long.
Unless I
like,
do some
Quite
quick
a bit.
maths. I'm gonna go with. What were my options again?
maybe just doing random numbers wasn't the best idea for question answers, but 28, 32 and a half, 39 and a half, 41, or 48.
It's 41 astronomical units. 100%.
100%?
100%.
Well, no. So, Taylor, do you want to give it a chance?
99%.
What was the one under 41?
The one that was like smaller was 39 and a half.
I'll go with that one.
You gonna go with 39 and a half? That's right.
What a joke.
And some extra facts about that. The minimum distance from the sun is 29.7 astronomical units, and the max distance is 49.3. So it's quite a wide range of distance.
hmm
I believe it's one of the more elliptical of the orbits.
Yeah, it like crosses Neptune.
Yeah,
orbit, doesn't
yeah,
it?
sometimes it's actually
closer.
closer to the sun than Neptune. So it becomes.
That's why it's not a planet.
It could have been the 8th planet of the solar system
if we discovered it at the right time.
Yeah.
It's not a planet because it didn't clear its orbital path.
It's not a
too.
planet, and also we probably wouldn't have seen it first because it's so small. It's harder to see.
Well, I mean, if it was closer than Neptune, we had a better chance of seeing it than it being farther than
That's
Neptune.
true.
All right. Well, another little fact: it takes Pluto 248 years to travel around the sun. To those listeners on Pluto, I hope you aren't having a bad year because it's probably not ending soon. If it is ending soon, good luck with those keeping up those New
Pluto
Year's
listeners
resolutions.
are probably cringing at our lack of Pluto knowledge right now.
Yeah, we're really Earth-centric. This
Yeah.
is not a very inclusive podcast.
So we gotta work on that. Sorry, guys.
Did you see New Horizons? Was it nice? Did it say hi? All right. Well, it's 1-2. Taylor being behind.
Of
So
course.
we're on to our final question,
Mhm.
and this one's a kind of a special one. Basically, how I said moons might come back up.
Yep.
I'm gonna have you guys go back and forth, and you have to say a moon in the solar system,
Like the name?
like any moon you want in the solar system.
Okay.
The only one you can't do is our moon because that's just the moon, and
Okay.
I'm not gonna take that as an answer because
How many
that's not
moons do you
fun.
know? I
We'll
know
see.
at least one moon. But that's about it.
And
Whose
don't
turn is it?
and don't think you can fool me because I have a website pulled up to look at
It's
moons.
it's
so,
Taylor's
so
turn.
Taylor can start first.
She used to
So
go
can you
first.
name a moon in the solar system?
Titan,
Titan. All right.
Io.
Io.
Europa.
Europa.
Phobos.
Phobos. No, wait, I'm gonna say this question's worth 2 points, which
Yeah, so it's for all the
so
marbles.
basically the of Marbles.
So the first three we did were wait, Io,
Io,
you said
Titan,
Titan, and
Phobos, and
Europa.
Europa.
Io,
Europa.
Titan, and Europa are all Jupiter. Phobos is Mars, I believe.
yep.
Callisto.
Let's-
Titan is Saturn.
The Titan is Saturn. Okay. Ceres.
Is
Ceres. Is that not one?
That's an asteroid, I believe, isn't it?
It's a dwarf planet in the asteroid belt, I think. Does that count as a disqualification?
I think you have to name another one.
I'll give you another chance.
I don't know anymore though.
I was gonna say
Don't give
because
me
I'm the
another
one who named
chance.
the last one.
Nope. I pass. I don't know any
You pass.
Pringles.
I guess I'd say that would be a win for Taylor. But do you have any other ones you know, Taylor, that you'd like to?
I can only think of dwarf planets right now, like Make and stuff.
Yeah, couple ones that came to mind.
That's the only
Couple
thing that's coming to
popular
mind
ones.
right now.
We said I.
Ganymede,
We said a lot of
dang
the
it.
Jupiter ones. Jupiter has 69 moons.
69. How many does Saturn have?
Saturn has 62.
Oh,
Oh,
Some of the big ones there were Rhea, Hypatis, Dione, Tethys,
Ganymede would have been one I knew.
Mimas.
The rest of these are I have no idea.
Uranus has 27. Titania, Oberon, Umbriel being some of the biggest ones. Neptune has Triton, Proteus, Nereid.
Triton.
14 total.
14. I was thinking
Pluto. I
Neptune
was hoping
16.
someone would start naming some Pluto moons because I love Pluto. Like Charon, Nix, Hydra, Styx.
Sharon.
Sharon.
Yeah.
Sharon. I'm not sure.
Are there any moons named Ron? I want some Ron moons.
Ron
Anyways,
Anyways, well, I guess that would be a win for Taylor
we've got
in the
a,
solar
we have
system.
our victor.
Therefore, she is now the expert on astronomy in the world, and now we'll start to discover.
the whole world.
The
Everything.
whole world.
And just since we were talking about moons, I'm just going to talk about my favorite moon for a minute.
Yeah,
Telesto.
sure, go for it.
I think it's a cool name.
What now, moon?
Telesto. It's a moon
Telesto.
of Saturn. And the reason I like it is because I play a lot of this game called Destiny, and
Mhm.
there's this gun in there. It's a really cool gun. It's called Telesto, and it's tied in with like the moons of Saturn.
With moons.
It's super cool. And
Super.
Telesto is the besto, you know.
If it rhymes, it's
And
true.
with that, I think it's time to wrap up.
With that, we're out of time, listeners. You've been listening to What's on the Fourth Floor. And as always, we will ponder in these last few seconds what is on the fourth floor.
It is very clearly a stamp-making robot.
Like an intelligent one or just a stamp factory?
Either, honestly.
Either. There's a bunch of stamps.
It's locked. That's why we can't go up there, because it's locked.
Yeah, we
It is
actually
caged
know
in.
of a professor that has a stamp collection. I think Peterson is a robot. And he's not real. He's an artificial intelligence.
Hello? If you're still here, it's because you're looking for more. If that's the case, check us out on Facebook at What's on the Fourth Floor and Twitter at OnFloor4. Again, that's Facebook, What's on the Fourth Floor, Twitter at OnFloor4. That's at OnFloor, the number 4.